It was only a matter of seconds, and Bruce says, geez, get your bow ready. He says, I hear one running on the road.
As soon as he come walking around the corner there, we took a look at him. We knew he was a shooter. And the odd time we'll let a little one walk by, but this guy, I knew he was gonna go down.
Starts getting rough, and I stop believing I'm not tough enough to be free. I just go on with you. That's when we know. That's when we go. When it's just us hunting.
That particular area is a 24-hour drive for myself. It's a 2-day drive up, it's a 2-day drive back. You're stopping at restaurants on the way up. You're doing repairs to your vehicles at any garage you can find. Logistically, it can be a nightmare at times. Everyone meets at the halfway point. We stop our journey in Kapuskasing. And I say we stop, really our journey starts in Kapuskasing. That's where the 4, the 5, the 6 of us will meet. We spend the night in Kapuskasing, and then from there on we have another 12-hour drive after that. And that's really when the journey begins.
Well, it can't be said that hunting's not beneficial for everybody, non-hunters and hunters alike. We just made our last stop before going in for our camp setup. It's the day before opening day right now, and we stopped at a small little northern community here, and we just put in close to $800 in fuel.
How's it going, Rick?
What are you up to there, Bruce?
We're getting our fuel for the week. How do you do that?
Think we got enough, or we're going to have to make another fuel run? That's just one group coming up to Northern Ontario for the moose hunt, and we're not the only people that do this.
So moose hunting not only puts food on our table, it puts food on a lot of local businesses' tables up north as well. People don't realize the money that goes back into the community over a hunt like this.
15A has always been a great spot for us. Like we, again, we had a little bit of inside information on where to go, and we actually made a mistake and turned on the wrong road. And for us, it turned out as a blessing. We're only a few miles off the highway.
Most of the places we go to, our bikes are covered in mud. Our bikes come out actually fairly clean, just dusty after hunting here. Our camp's not too far ahead here, another mile or two, and we'll see if it's occupied. If not, well, the hunt starts.
This is the third time we've been back here. We've hunted that particular unit 2 times prior to that, and then we went on to a different unit because of tag allocations. As luck would have it, the tag numbers were changed again, and we were guaranteed a tag here. So when we came back to this unit, I'm assuming it was a rifle hunting camp at the time. They had a log tent frame already set up, which saved us a pile of work. So we just tarped in that one instead of setting up 2 tents. We set up 1 tent, plus we had this camp that was so graciously left for us, and it turned out to be a fantastic camp once we had it set up.
2009, September 17th, the opening day of moose season, and we are finally set up camp. Everything went well. We had a good trip up, and we're just having a shower and getting stuff organized. We're lucky nobody was in our spot again, and we saw a few moose coming in on there, a few moose tracks on the road in, and looks like it'll be good. It's hot as Hades there today. It's about 25 degrees, and the black flies are out big time. You can probably see them, but we'll make the best of it, and it's supposed to cool down here this week, and hopefully things go as well as they did last time we were here.
Once again, we're teamed up, and our hunting partners, as always, and myself and the Pine Martin, we're on our way, and everybody asked me, why the pine marten? Like, where does he get this name from? And probably 15 years earlier, when I first met Bruce in Timmins, we were bear hunting, and I shot a bear, but it wasn't a good shot, right in the shoulder. And the next day, we were tracking it. And Bruce was maybe a little lighter than he is now. Like, he's probably 150 now. He's probably 130. And here I am at 200. I'm probably being modest, but we were trying to track this thing. And Bruce is running on top of these deadfalls like a bloody red squirrel, and I'm up to my armpits crashing through all this stuff. And that's basically where the name come from. Like, he was miles ahead of me, and I said, you're just like a damn pine marten. Like, he was nimble, he was running right on top of the branches, and I'm crashing through it like a damn moose.
Well, it's opening day. My first sit. Did a lot of traveling today. Got a lot more to do. Better part of this week will be exploring. No real sign today. Seen a number of tracks. One rub that was maybe 5 days old. And that was it. I don't know how warm it is out now. It's got to be 24, 25 degrees out. It's awful hot.
Yeah, that was a warm year. It's tough to hunt moose in the heat. They're a big animal. They can overheat fast. Even though the rut is on, they'll often have a lot of their activity during the night or early morning. They've had a chance to cool down during the night, so they'll be mobile first thing in the morning. But you can have some long days, no activity. They're not responding. And that particular year, we had a hard time finding moose too. There wasn't any around.
That's the problem with the moose. Like, in the morning, when it's hot like that, they typically are a little more active in the morning because they've had all night to cool off. But evening hunts typically are non-productive because you call, and by the time they get up on their feet, it's almost dark. They aren't going to be running around when it's 30 degrees. It doesn't matter what they're looking for.
Carl and I lucked into this one spot. We'd found some activity, circled a huge area. There was wolves around too, so if there's wolves, generally they're in there feeding on the moose. They're after them steady. If you can find the wolves, guaranteed there's moose close by.
We've had a few years where it's amazing overnight, a whole moose carcass, like ribs, spine, everything. You can go back there the next day. There is not any evidence other than a bit of food out of the moose's stomach that is left on the ground. That is it. There is not a scrap of hair, legs, bones, anything. They clean it up.
Here's a tip concerning trail cam placement. When you're setting up your trail cam, make sure you have the camera facing north or south. If you set up your trail cam facing east or west, the sun is going to play a crucial role in ruining most of your pictures. And that's your Just Us Hunting tip of the week.
Well, it's day 2. We're in the evening right now. After this morning, we decided to go scout out some new spots, Rick and I, and found a couple areas, but not as many signs we'd hoped to see. Tonight we're going to be hunting on a Nace Creek area. There's a good reserve in there, good buffer zone. Maybe we'll try to call out a bull tonight and see what kind of action.
Gary and I were hunting together the first week, and we came across what looked like a promising spot. So we hunted there it was an afternoon, and it looked really good. But we didn't have any answers that night, but the place held huge potential. So the following morning, I decided to go and try a different spot that, to me, looked like a moose haven, right? And Gary was going to go back there. So he went back to the spot that he was at the night before, and he was calling, and he tells us that he had a moose answer, and it was coming in now. You know, we all say moose are coming in. He could have been 1.5 miles away at the time. But as luck has it, and as Gary's luck is, it was warm. It was extremely warm all that week, and the black flies were terrible. Well, that morning he gets dinged right in the eye with a black fly, and it basically just closed his eye shut. So he's the only one that had any moose action yet. Moose is coming in. His dominant eye gets bit by a black fly. He's out of commission. He had to come back to camp. So yeah, you might as well sit down and watch DVDs.
Rackman, yeah.
The first week I never had a topographical map with me, and we always have maps. And I left them at Kevin's house on the way up. So I wasn't going to have my top maps with me until the following week. So I went to one spot and it looked promising, and I had my tree stand set up. It was about a 4-mile bike ride for me to get there. And that particular night was fairly windy and fairly uneventful. But lo and behold, after an hour and a half, 2 hours of calling, I thought I could hear a cow.
We did have one bit of enjoyment there the one night. Carl and I decided to cut the evening short. There was no action, there was no moose moving. We figured we'd just hunt the cold mornings. So we're on the way back to camp there, and geez, we're within audio distance of Rick. We can hear Rick calling off in the distance. So we just started answering him back.
If you think you heard a moose, you better act and react as if you did, because if you don't, it's going to bite you right in the tush. And if you do, well, you might be ready for the shot of a lifetime, right? So I thought I heard a cow, and I really couldn't be sure. So I kept playing on as if we had a couple moose in the area, and maybe a half an hour later, I thought I could hear a bull grunt.
So Rick would call, we'd answer. He'd call again, we'd answer.
So I go back to the camp and I tell the guys, I'm pretty sure I heard a bull, pretty sure I heard a cow, not 100% sure on it.
Rick said, there's moose all over there down the end of the lake there.
Go back the next day, nothing. So I keep on my merry way for the rest of the week, right? I'm on another stand a few days later, and I'm thinking about this because now Kevin's in town, and I got my top map. 4-mile bike ride to get there. I'm only 700 meters from camp. Then it dawns on me. Those guys were answering my calls, yeah. And I'm sure they would have left me sit in that tree stand all week waiting for that bull to come in.
So we have a bit of a chuckle pulling a few tricks like that on the boys once in a while.
Payback is going to be sweet.
I remember this one time, we were going to hunt a few deer, December, parked myself in the dark at the end of the cornfield, underneath some overhanging branches, sitting in my lawn chair just like this. My feet were overhanging the cut furrow at the end of the field. A few minutes later, some motion to my left, the biggest, shiniest, fattest skunk you ever saw, hopped out of the ditch into the furrow floor, walked up the furrow towards me. I'm not going to break, I'm not going to give out my cover. Comes up, and when he's standing between my toes, he stops, looks straight at me, looks back down, straight ahead, stands still, and then puts it back into gear, trots on up the furrow for about 10 feet, and then changed 2 gears, and he was out of there. And that's a memory that I'm not going to forget.
Well, this is my new home for tonight. Set up this stand this afternoon. It's actually showing a lot of promise. I can hunt tomorrow morning. Then I have to go pick up Kevin, the little missus.
I flew up to Thunder Bay because the year before, after I had my accident, Rick, he happened to fall out of a tree stand and he hurt himself pretty bad. And so I made arrangements for somebody to come out of camp, pick me up at the Thunder Bay airport. After sitting in the airport for 5 hours because nobody come, I found out that they were fighting over what time they had to be there, and they forgot about the time change and everything else. And so anyways, Rick come to town, and he's standing there in sandals and shorts telling me it's so hot out. He says, we're not doing anything.
I took Kevin around and showed him what little activity and action we've had going, showed him the most promising spots. And then he and I came across this one spot, and it looked well. It was the most promising spot we had found and that I had seen in the last week and a half.
I didn't try climbing up trees, and I used a crossbow. I compensated. I got a crossbow and used that for that year for going moose hunting, and I kept my yardage down short. So I stayed right on the wherever the trail was. I kind of took about 4 steps off the trail and set up a blind.
So we started calling that night, and he was a couple hundred yards up this strip from myself, and he gets on the radio and says, "Rick, you got a bull answering you. It's going towards you." I got a bull coming in about 100 yards behind me. He just came past Kevin. He's right back here, so we still have lots of light.
He walked, I couldn't see him. I could hear him going through the bush. He walked right on a 30-degree angle over the next ridge and down through the bush.
Once he started getting closer, and I'm going to say within 100 yards, then I had another bull light up behind me, and it, who knows, it could have been a half a mile. But I thought this bull was going to come in and I'd be able to close the deal. I could see the tag alders moving. He was maybe 40 yards away, and then it was just too dark to shoot after that. There's not a breeze out tonight. It's going to get -5. My prediction is we're going to prime the pump tonight and we're going to shoot the moose tomorrow morning. Might not be us, might be the conehead and the pine marten, but it's just shaping up to be a beautiful, beautiful night. So, time to start calling.
It's been a number of years now that my dad's been hunting, and 2 or 3 years ago he got me into the sport. My weapon of choice now is the compound bow. I hunt for white-tailed deer. My dream hunt would definitely have to be a zebra hunt in Africa. My dad would have to be there with me too though, and this is Levi Pike and this is my profile.
The following morning we get up and it's a beautiful frost, a heavy, heavy frost. It's the only frost we had all week. Kevin and I went out there, we had a renewed vigor in our step, if you will, and I thought, this is it. Like, they came in last night, they're still gonna be there, they're waiting for us, and the deal's gonna go. And unfortunately, I never heard anything except a radio call from Bruce and Carl, and they put one down. So it was another good hunt, but honestly, it's not the way I thought it was gonna finish off that week.
We found a good spot to set up. There's a beautiful lake there. We had a good tree stand set up. Kind of a black spruce swamp on the other side. We're up on a big hill. Sound would carry good.
There was a large esker. It sure didn't look like good moose area, but we thought, well, our call would go out from here, and there was water, and we set up right on the side of the road. Trucks couldn't get in there, but there was a huge washout we had to get around. But we set up and called, and we hunted it the one night and no success. And then the next morning the frost came, and it was heavy, heavy frost. And, we set up and called, and we were calling and calling and nothing. And it was about 8:30, I think. It was, I'm really impatient, like when it comes to this. If there's nothing happening when daylight comes, it isn't gonna happen. And I don't know why, because lots of times we've just been getting ready to get down and we hear one, or some days we sit longer and we hear one, but I always wanna get out of there if there's nothing going on. And Bruce says, just give the loudest call you can give. And I maybe don't call quite as good as Bruce, but I can call fairly loud. And we let go with this wail, and it was only a matter of seconds. And Bruce says, geez, get your bow ready. He says, I hear one running on the road.
As soon as he come walking around the corner there, we took a look at him. We knew he was a shooter. The odd time we'll let a little one walk by, but this guy, I knew he was gonna go down. But he hung up on us for a few minutes, but he come walking through in short order, and yeah, he made a good shot.
Run like a racehorse straight down the road. Like it's, it doesn't look like we're very serious on the blood trailing, but there's not much of a blood trail because you can just see his feet running down the road. And another 50 yards, he would have run right into the bike. He landed right in the middle of the road, just around the corner from where we had the four-wheeler park. Well, after 40-minute wait, we climbed down and come down the road for a couple hundred yards he went, but right on the road all the way down, and we come around the corner, you could see his ass sticking up out of the side of the road, and this is him. He's a nice moose. He's the nicest one I've shot.
Get all the gear and all the boys and get the moose back to camp and all cut up. Worked out fine. The moose hunt is tremendous excitement. When you got a big animal like that coming in, crashing and grunting and carrying on, it's pretty exciting. That's why we bow hunt.
If you have videos of your hunts and would like to see them right here on this show, go to our website, justushunting.com, and email me directly. Who knows? Maybe one day you'd see your hunts right here on Just Us Hunting.
Well, I feel alone and I can't see why. And the cold winds blowing from the northern sky. I dream of going hunting. When life's road starts getting rough, when I stop believing I'm not tough enough to be free, I just go hunting.